go into the first question, and I wanted this dialogue to be more about common issues and practical issues that we as a community are going through. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God Almighty, says that we can't even say uff to our parents. I mean, it's clearly written in there, but some kids don't say uff, but they do other things to their mothers, which could be inappropriate. I'm sure there is an equivalent of this also in Judaism. But Imam Magid, if you can start, and then we'll go into Rabbi Lustig of how would a mother address this type of a child? What rights does she have over her children when they're behaving this way with her?
We have to remember there's different stage of childhood. A child who's 2 years old, 3 years old, 5 years old, making a fuss. It's not like a child 18 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old. Therefore, there's different levels of accountability, toward the parents or an adult, someone like me, therefore, you have to see what Islam says about parenting in general and the interaction between mother and her children. But it's very important that the Quran uses a very beautiful concept, the Arabic language. God says, when you are independent, become independent of your parents, he compared that like a bird to a bird. The mother bird take care of the little bird in the nest. And then the bird grow feathers, have their wing, and they fly off the nest. They call it in America, empty nest. That person who left the nest should not neglect the rights of his mother or her mother. What the Quran said, lower your wing to your parents. Lower your wing to your parents. It is very important that I think from practical perspective, since at the time of Moses and Muhammad, peace be upon all of them, there is no, ultrasound. I think the parents should keep all those pictures of the forming of the babies. And when the parents and children talk back to their parents, they'd make a display. So listen, that's the tiny thing you were, and you are in the diaper, and this is why I was washing you in the bathtub, and that's why you're the first walk you made. I helped you through that. Therefore, I think it has to be visualizing, like, really? You think that you have it all? You are a graduate of this Ivy League. I joke with my children because they, and now you can dismiss anyone. You cannot do that. Therefore, the Quran put emphasis on language and attitude, and communications, not to be dismissive to your parents. The respect a person has to give their parents, it is one of the most important acts of worship a person would do.
So I will follow and just say that we know that how important this concept of respect is, because we have, as part of the 10 Commandments, the Decalogue given to us and the basis of almost all religion and humanity as if you will, a guide. It says kibud et av v'em, and later on it says that you should honor your father and mother, and you should honor your mother and your father. It's listed 2 times in the Torah, and each time the order is changed, and the rabbis tell us that's because there's an equivocation. Now, when I have a 13-year-old who is quite, rambunctious and doesn't want to listen to their parents, which would never happen for a Jewish child, as we know, and all those people that are home with their children know that every child, Muslim or Jewish, would behave with absolute dignity toward their parents. I just tell them to open up and see if they can read the Hebrew for me of Leviticus 29, which says that for the rebellious child, that you simply stone them to death. Now, I do that as a joke, but one of the things that's and you have to realize that the Sanhedrin in Jewish law never participated in capital punishment. So, but the idea that saying words against your parents, going against the ones who nurtured you and brought you into this world, is a capital offense. It talks about death, and then what is the real death? Perhaps it's going to be the death of a loving relationship. Perhaps it's going to be the death of dignity. Perhaps it's going to be the death of how we are in the world. Within Judaism, within Islam, it is not what we say that is paramount. It is not the words of the Quran that become so important, not the words of the Torah, but one of our core prayers, the Shema and Shema Birtecha, and the Shema and its corresponding prayers that go with it, is one which we read, the V'ahavta. You should teach them diligently unto your children. How? As you walk us by the way, as you lie down, when you rise up, meaning everything we do is an example to our children. So even how we treat the aberrant child is one that is most important. And Judaism brings this home so clearly, because I make the claim that Judaism invented special education. We just had our first virtual seders. And in all of our virtual seders, we have the 4 questions, and then we often have a statement about the 4 children. And we are told that we are to educate each of those children according to where that child find themselves at the particular time. Meaning, the child that is unable to ask, you ask for them. The child that is evil or wicked or arrogant, you do in a certain way. The simple child who can't understand, you do in another way. We are to teach according to that ability. So really, the problem of the child is really not the problem of the child. The problem of the child who disobeys is really a problem for the parents of how do we lovingly nurture a child to understand that behavior, if you treat your own parents that way, God forbid how you'll treat a stranger or someone who didn't birth you. So I think this is all about human behavior, and it's about getting along. And as Martin Buber taught us, all things are divided, he says, into I-it relationships, meaning us and something else. I drive into the service station, I roll down the window, and I say to the female attendant, fill my car up. That's a service, an I-it. We just exchange things that we need. An I-thou is something that changes me and I change the other. And Buber says, certainly in a parent-child relationship, in all relationships, there's an eternal thou. The eternal you is God. And so we have to make sure God is present in our relationships, in how we treat those children. So the Hasids tell the story about the child who is rambunctious and angry, whenever they say, send him out to the end of a thing and where there's an echo, and says to yell, and the child yells and he says, I hate you, and he comes back, I hate you. Then they say, what did you hear? And they said, send the child out again and say, I love you. I love you. The idea is we get back what we give. And I think that that's something that's very important for us to remember as parents, and especially in these trying times in which when we have children back in our home who have been independent, who are no longer have the same independence they had at their time at college. We can't revert and treat them as like they were when they were in high school, but we also have to have them understand how we create shalom bayit, peace in the house.